Pakistan's come from behind 2-1 win over England, and they smashed them as well. I mean, they beat them by 9 wickets. England 267 all out. That was flattered. Well, they were flattered by Jamie Smith batting with the tail and making 89. But the utter joy of watching Sajid Khan and Noman Ali taking 19 wickets in the test match between them, having taken all 20 the previous week. Baz, we were in Pakistan in 2022 and got to watch those two men go through their paces and bowling on concrete slabs, and there being nothing for them. And for the most part, just trying to hold up an end and trying to stay in the test match for as long as they could. But now getting the opportunity, strategically, surfaces that have been designed to spin. The second test, playing on the same pitch as the first test and scarifying that and taking a similar approach at Rawalpindi. Maybe this is the model for Pakistan going forward, trusting Sajid, trusting Noman. They may not be fashionable cricketers, especially the latter, who there's so much online memery around how old he is versus how old his birth certificate says and all the rest of it. And Sajid with the shiny head and the performative mustache and so on. But maybe that's the real model for Pakistan cricket, trying to give their spinners more to work with, and has been the case since they started playing Test cricket again in that country 3 or 4 years ago.
When you saw those two run through England, trust me, or I have to ask you this, Adam. You would have felt a little disappointed, right? Like, isn't this the movie we were promised when we went to Pakistan? The Noman Ali Sajid Khan running through Australia movie, and we got to see. It's like these two actors who've been hyped up and as action heroes, and we ended up seeing them in some slapstick comedy instead, right? Like, they seem just such miscast on those flat pitches, and you felt bad for them. I mean, they'd done years of bowling on the kind of pitches that they're getting finally, and then not being given the right assistance. And Noman Ali, I think, is slowly becoming my favorite international cricketer. There was this one clip which is doing the rounds, from I think the second test match when he's batting with, I don't know whether you saw it, like he's batting with Salman Ali Agha, and he just tucks this ball towards fine leg, takes a single. And I think Uruj Mumtaz, who does such great work on broadcast, kind of spoke about it, because you could hear the conversation through stump mic, where Salman Ali Agha asks Noman Ali, "Did you mean to play that shot?" And just I think, unless you've grown up in a part of India or Pakistan where you've heard like slightly senior gents speak to someone very much younger, the way Noman Ali did, like, you can connect a lot more. But just the way he said, "Are tere bhai ne Lara ki tarah mara," it's almost like him. Basically, what he was saying is, "Oh, your elder brother just played a shot like Brian Lara, and you're asking me if this is what I meant." And but just the way he said it, Adam, kind of, all those memes you spoke about how old he could be, I think he gave it away with just the way he said that. But doesn't matter how old he is or what his birth certificate says, till the time he bowls the way he did. And I know there have been a lot of criticism around the fact that 39 out of 40 wickets went to just two bowlers. But why not? I mean, if that's your strength and that's why they are in the test squad, why wouldn't you give them something to play with, unlike what we saw 2 years ago?
It's just brilliant. I think they weren't even in the squad, and the wholesale changes after England racked up 800. Just throwing the ball to two spinners and going, "Righto, boys, you take it from here." Even the performative, like this, the weird Sayam Ayub bowling one over, and then the two spinners bowling the rest. I loved all of that, all the trickery and all the mucking around and so on. And Noman finishing with 20 at 14, he's pushed himself into the ICC top 10 on their latest update today. And Sajid Khan, who was player of the series for his 19 at 21, the two of them making runs as well. Noman 45 and Sajid 48 down the list in the first innings to give them a healthy first innings lead. After Sol Shakil, one of our faves as well, made a really important 100. Then they rolled England for 112 the second time, Root top scoring with 33. So they made England this year. They made more runs in one hit in the first innings of the series than they did in all their other innings combined across the second and third tests, where they, of course, lost 40 wickets and lost both of the matches. So, I hope they do lean into this. I hope that Pakistan's test surfaces just evolve a wee bit. We don't need shit heaps. We don't need pitches that are designed to have the ball shooting through, like we had, sadly, at indoor last year in a match that ended in 7 sessions. We don't need any of that. That's the extreme end, and I think that has been counterproductive for India's play against spin, by the way. You mentioned that before. But, not just having pitches that are designed to wear bowlers down for 5 days, and maybe there might be some reverse swing that might decide it. This is more fun. So hopefully it plays out that way. Back to Pakistan in a sec. England, for their part, all very philosophical, as we're kind of conditioned to these days, with them saying, in Stokes' case, saying they've got their best 6 players. But, I mean, it is a tricky time for them. Ollie Pope, having started the series as captain, finishing it with only 55 runs to his name. Stokes himself not bowling after coming back from quite serious hamstring injury, and then not being particularly effective against the spin of the aforementioned pair. That was not just a problem for him here, by the way. Stokes didn't do well against spin against India earlier this year. So, I mean, they go straight to New Zealand, more or less. They start there in a month, their first test match. And the only real change they've made to their setup is that Jacob Bethel has been added to the squad, which is another road call, isn't it? I mean, we're a little... look, I think the weird thing here is that when England first went on this run under McCullum and Stokes, they almost went the other way. It wasn't about rogue outside the box decisions. It was like, let's play a spinner every match. Let's have Jack Leach bowl in every team, whether we need a spinner or not. We'll pick one every week. Johnny Bairstow came back into the side as an experienced body now, and that very much worked in that first summer of 2022. Now it feels like they're just mixing it up. They're throwing the ball around to everyone to see what works for them. And I don't know how you feel about this, but Bethel's clearly a prodigiously talented young cricketer, turned 21 last week. It's in the Maxwell book. And well before Bethel was on the radar, Maxwell spent a lot of time with him last year in the T20 Blast, and they lived near each other in Birmingham, and saying that this guy's going to be a superstar. Watch this kid. He's got a huge amount to offer, especially initially in white ball cricket. But I don't know. I kind of get it with trying to get outside the square options for bowlers, because you can see the raw minerals, the component parts, and you can see what they might be, even if they haven't really done it at first class level. I feel a bit differently about batters. I feel like, I don't know, old Smith's law, you just haven't earned it yet, baby. I just feel like he just hasn't earned the chance to play Test cricket, Bethel, yet. A quick 40-odd in a T20 against Australia, and 90-odd in like April of the county championship this year, and averaging 25 in 20-odd games. I hope he is a Test cricketer. I hope he makes it, but I just feel like there's something not quite right about elevating him to this status at this point. And it does jar a little bit on the back of what's just happened in Pakistan.
And you just imagine putting yourself in the shoes of any county cricketer right now, who's not in the setup. I mean, what is the blueprint? Like, what is my way into the English team? When I wonder what, it's winter there in England, so you don't have no control over whether you get picked or not anymore. But if you are someone who's like in 18 counties, and we all hear so many names, people making big scores and big runs. So if you're just one of them, you're sitting there and going, hang on, wait, he makes 190, and okay, he's a really good fielder. He took down Adam Zampa in a T20 game. And he gets picked. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm sure it's confusing. I know it's one thing if you hear all of them talk in the same language these days about English cricket. But I mean, this thought came to me just listening to Ben Stokes in one of his post-match interviews. I think it was with the BBC. Do you think deep inside, I mean, look, Ben Stokes' runs have really dropped. Like you said, he's not been bowling much. Ollie Pope hasn't scored too many runs. Is this whole thing, now that they've found Bazball, and the fact that they don't really talk much about the WTC, it almost, like, to use a wrestling term, it's almost like, okay, they found this one big giant and they're just waiting for Hulk Hogan, which in their case is the Ashes, right? It's like everything else will just like, whatever, we lose in Pakistan. But hey, don't forget, we have found the a weapon finally with which we can beat Australia. So we'll just keep focusing on that. I don't know. I mean, you spend more time in England than I do, Adam. I almost get this weird feeling where everything is focused on that.
Yeah, it is a preoccupation. I think it's unhealthy. On both sides of the ledger, by the way, the extent to which the teams focus on each other. I get the rivalry, and it's a wonderful thing, and I love covering Ashes series and how much history goes into it all. But yeah, I that's an interesting observation on your part that so much energy is geared around. And I get it because you've got to do medium term planning. And I was an advocate for this, by the way, when they pensioned off Anderson. I sort of shared the view that you can't do. It's impossible to do medium term planning without playing guys who aren't in the side right then. So, statement of the obvious that if they want to get test matches into Atkinson, they've got to play him in test cricket. They can't get test matches into him playing for Surrey, and that's worked quite nicely. But the way they picked Jamie Smith, for instance, that was on the back of bulk runs for a couple of years and just looking right, looking ready for the next step. And so it's proven. Smith is ready for test cricket. Smith is an outstanding young player on the way through, and now he's got his chance, right? Batting at 7 primarily. Yeah. Bethel hasn't done that bit, the key bit first, and it would be dispiriting, even at his own club. I mean, Sam Hain, Alex Davies, Will Rhodes. I mean, and I'm not saying any of them are necessarily in the test match frame right now, but it does just jar that to the naked eye, this is, and I'm not saying it's this necessarily, but young bloke, twats it, probably plays golf, good as gold. I hope it's not as simple as that. It feels as simple as that because he is going to be a player. Like there's no one's questioning his ability. But yeah, and look, to be honest, he's likely to be the work experience kid on this trip anyway, because they've already announced that Jordan Cox will play for Jamie Smith. Smith's on parental leave. He's having a baby that clashes with the New Zealand series. So Cox will get his chance, and he's earned his chance. Cox moved counties, made tons of runs for Essex this year, made it so that he had to come in. And that's great. And I sort of feel like that still has to have some weight. I mean, without being too like it wouldn't happen in Australia, there's no way in the world Jacob Bethel will be getting in a test squad if he was posting those kind of numbers in the Sheffield Shield in a limited sample size of 20 first class games for 738 runs at 25 with 550s. You're just not getting talked about, let alone picked. So it's a massive call to be sorry, not a massive call in a way, because what does it mean? It means nothing really at the end of the day if he doesn't play, but it doesn't send a great signal to county cricket. Whereas quietly before that, they were doing that. I mean, it's easy to ignore, but Matty Potts made his way into that test side in the first year of McCullum through what he did for Durham. I mentioned before what Jamie Smith had done for Surrey. What Atkinson was doing for a couple of years with Surrey got them very excited. Like there was a sense that what you were doing at the level below was getting you picked, until Josh Hull and Shao Bashir, which were two total smokies. But I kind of got it. If you kind of squinted it and you ignore all of the different norms that we're conditioned to growing up with, Hull, it's like he's 6'7", his left arm, and he's quick and he swings it. Okay. That might be something very special to win in Australia if he can get everything right. Now, whether it comes off or not, it's neither here nor there. They wanted to give it a burl. Same goes with Shao Bashir. They saw a little bit of him. They thought he was different to the run-of-the-mill finger spinner with the way he approaches the crease, and they're giving that a decent workout. He's played probably 12 or 13 test matches by now. But middle order batter, I don't know. Anyway, jury's out. Moving to Pakistan, who we really should have been celebrating at the front of this segment rather than talking about them second. We're never far away from chaos, though, are we? At the very same time that Jason Gillespie's, probably saved his coaching career, Gary Kirsten, the white ball coach, has been sacked. Now, they say he's resigned, and maybe that's true. Who really knows with Pakistan at the moment? But all done before he's overseen a single one-day international. He's essentially been canned on the back of the T20 World Cup losses to America and India. So that 2-year contract, maybe it was good shopping from Kirsten Baz that he got a 2-year contract, did 6 months of work and finds himself out of there. And all of a sudden, Jason Gillespie, who was appointed to the test team, is now overseeing the white ball group when they come to Australia.
And just after Jason Gillespie spoke about how he was worried that he might get splinters in his arse. Interesting turn of phrase to use in Pakistan. I don't know how many of them got that, but when he was asked about being no longer being a selector and just match day strategist in his coaching capacity. So, look, I personally can't wait for Dizzy to come back and for us to catch up on our usual Norwood coffee.
Yes.
I'm sure he has a lot of stories. He generally only wants to talk wrestling, but I'm sure I'll get a couple of Pakistan stories out of him. But I think it makes sense since they're coming to Australia. It would have been really interesting if their next tour was, say, to Sri Lanka. If they would have picked Jason Gillespie on an interim basis. I'm hearing that the current boss is a big fan of Aqib Javed as well, who's back in the mix and made a couple of bold calls. He was one of the 140 selectors or how many ever Pakistan have these days who made a call on bringing back Noman Ali and Sajid Khan and dropping those big names. And now all of a sudden Mohammad Rizwan is captain. So Babar Azam's
Mm.
back, and so is Shaheen Shah Afridi, and they're going to play under Mohammad Rizwan. Well, Jason Gillespie's already got a taste of what it is like to be in that Pakistan dressing room. It's only going to get even more interesting from this point on. But yeah, I mean, with Gary Kirsten, what he spoke about there being some issues with unity in the team and all of that.
Mm.
After that India-Pakistan game, or after the World Cup early exit into, and it is bizarre. I mean, it's kind of funny how Harbhajan Singh got involved in all of this. It's pretty churlish the way it played out on social media. Anyway, I think he tweeted something about after Pakistan were knocked out of the World Cup about how much everyone from that batch of Indian cricket loves Gary Kirsten, because obviously he was World Cup winning coach, and how he should just come back and coach India, because that was the time India was looking for a new coach after the Rahul Dravid retirement. And I just saw that Harbhajan Singh is gone, and once the Gary Kirsten news was official a couple of days ago, he's gone and reacted to that with two laughing smileys. So yeah, he's got one back at the Pakistani. It's interesting, these former Indian cricketers and Pakistan at times, like how it plays out on the socials. But yeah, I mean, I said it last week on Twitter. Like, you always wonder who writes the scripts in Pakistan cricket, but then you're like, no, that's wrong. There are no scripts that get followed in Pakistan. Things just happen
Yeah.
on a daily basis.
But they should have put it. You know how they have those Amazon and Netflix documentaries like embedded within a team for a year. Like
Yeah.
this last few months with Pakistan would have been ripe for that. I mean, with the change of coach and what they've been able to achieve with their test team, having not won a test in home test for 3.5 years, and been under so much pressure, only to, as soon as that's over, sack Gary Kirsten. And Ramiz Raja, the former chair, saying they're going to find it very difficult to recruit for that white ball job. Now, having pushed out Kirsten in the space of no time at all, it was difficult enough. Remember how many months they went through that process of trying to get Gillespie and Kirsten to want to do it. Feels like a lot of these roads lead back to that, what seems to be a really loose operator, that Moshe Navkivi, the new PCB chairman, who everything his name seems to be linked to has chaos following it. He was in the press conference to announce the Australian squad as the PCB chair, which seems a snifter odd. And yeah, you mentioned before, how Gillespie responded to being relegated as selector, which he didn't seem to know about. And, they have names, of course, the squad for Australia, because they're out here playing as soon as next week. So Babar Azam, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Naseem Shah, all dropped for the test matches. They're back. Rizwan, our favourite Amdram operator, is going to captain the team. I'm sure that's going to go well. Cast of thousands on the trip. So many fucking cricketers coming out here from Pakistan. They've released their contract list as well. So Shan Masood's not in the white ball teams, right? He's been given a contract in the test team so long as he remains captain. If they neck him as captain, he automatically loses his national contract, which, great job security there for the skipper. Imagine saying that. Anyway, it starts on the 4th of November, first one day out. We will doubtless return to the madness of Pakistan's 2024 soon enough. The other stacking this week, or resignation, is Stuart Law. Now, this jarred. The chief executive put out a statement from USA Cricket saying it wasn't an easy decision and the usual platitudes, but it was the day before a match against Nepal. So predictably chaotic. USA Cricket and Pakistan Cricket are the two loosest cricket boards on the planet. It sounds like he was the victim. I say victim, air quotes there, of a power struggle with Murnak Patel, the captain. This extra colour being provided by Peter Delapanna as always, but they've been pumped by Scotland, and it sounds like he lost the players. But you think about what happened in such a short space of time, 7 months into a 3-year deal. They beat Bangladesh in a bilateral series before the World Cup. And they make the Super 8 to the home World Cup. That astonishing win over Canada to start the tournament. Even more remarkable victory over Pakistan in the Super Over. It's by far the best associate story, and probably story world, full stop, of that World Cup they hosted. So much is seemingly heading in the right direction, albeit that's on field. Off field, they got into a bit of strife for the ICC, as they always tend to. But then, Stuart Law, who's central to all of this, finds himself out of a job as quickly as that. I don't know. I hate to say it's... you don't want to be too reductive and assume it's the same old with USA Cricket, but it's hard to avoid that conclusion.
And just reading some of the things about it, I mean, Smith Patel, who covers US cricket for Cricket Buzz,
Yeah.
did a piece where he quoted from the letter saying Stuart Law infused an air of mistrust amongst team members through his lies and deceit, and he alienated and completely demoralized the players. And there's some accusations of he was upset with Harmeet Singh speaking Hindi to a fellow South Asian player. And it kind of breaks my heart, like seeing how this whole Stuart Law situation has played out. um, Smith Patel, who covers U.S. cricket for Cricket Buzz, he wrote an article and quoted from the letter, and some of the things here, Adam. Apparently, it says Stuart Law infused an air of mistrust amongst team members through his lies and deceit, and alienated and completely demoralized them. I read some bit where apparently he's accused of getting upset with Harmeet Singh for speaking in Hindi with another teammate of subcontinental heritage. I mean, this is not the Stuart Law
Mm,
we've ever heard of. And to think that I was
yeah.
in so many of those press conferences during the Super 8. Stuart Law is to be sporting this Team USA cap, and there was one in particular where he broke down when they were about to play the West Indies in Barbados, and you could see him in tears when he was just talking about the emotion of the fans cheering for him, and like people all the way up to the White House. I think speaking about this USA cricket team, and for it to end like this so quickly with like what seems like most of the senior players having turned on him or having issues with him, and just lies and deceit, like it's shocking really, and it's pretty sad,
Mm,
this whole news thing.
yeah. Yeah, it is. Hey, Baz, the one test match I meant to mention earlier and forgot to, but will now, that has relevance to the World Test Championship. So South Africa ended up easily beating Bangladesh last week. We
Mm.
got about halfway through this test with Alex Malcolm and I. Bangladesh in their second innings made 300 plus. Mehdi Hassan, my boy, got 97. And yes, Rabada finished the job taking a six for in his milestone week. He took his 300th test wicket and finished it by getting to hold the ball up. He goes back to the number one spot on the ICC rankings, by the way. It's been a while for Rabada since he's been number one, but pleased to see it. And South Africa win their first test in Asia for a decade. But one of the quirks of two test series making up World Test Championships, and thus South Africa only playing two test series, is with 5 test matches to go for them. If they get on a roll, they could make the final. Now they're at 47.62 and in 5th spot right now. But I'm just taking a look at the card here for the second test match. They made 575 for 6 declared to start the match they're playing right now. 177 for Tony Dazorzi, who's one of the most rewarding names to say in cricket at the moment. Tristan Stubbs made a century as well and didn't make it in 5 minutes either, a strike rate of 53, which is a great sign for South Africa that someone as talented as him in white ball cricket wants to be part of the test setup. Half century for Bettingham after a rough trot as well. And an unbeaten century for Wian Mulder. Always happy to see Mulder in the runs down the list. And they've got them 38 for 4 overnight. So they'll win that second test, right? Now, if they go 2-0, 2-0, 2-0 to finish, and their next two series, it's Sri Lanka at home, then Pakistan at home. Now, there's a lot riding on that Sri Lanka series, acknowledging that Sri Lanka are currently in 3rd spot in 56%. So if one of the two teams wins that 2-0, let's pretend it's South Africa. If they go 2-0 at home in both of those after presumably winning 2-0 away against Bangladesh, their number will have a 6 in front of it. Now, if their number's got a 6 in front of it, they are a massive show of sneaking into 2nd spot. So when you consider the sadness built in all of this, or the sadness that you fold into all of this, is that they gave away 2 test matches to New Zealand by playing their third 11 due to the SA20. If they end up third on percentage, they'll be gutted having made that decision, that short-term decision at the time, but it does feel worlds apart from there now. I know they're not the best team in the world, far from it, but what a nice little twist. And maybe it's a feature, not a flaw, of the WTC that, owing to the percentage way that it's done, yes, difficult to follow, yes, not perfect, far from, given that not everyone plays everyone due to the India-Pakistan stuff, and thus they only play 6 series in the cycle, not 8. But it does mean that we're getting towards the end of this third cycle, and legitimately 5 teams could make the final 2. There's something riding on every single test match. That's what they wanted.
Well, they might have chanced upon this dream formula, or maybe the ICC will turn around and say, "Hey, this is what we had in mind all along." Because you're right, there's
Yeah.
such suspense, especially after New Zealand having beaten India, and I guess in many ways, some of the results we've seen in the last 2-3 months across the board have kind of brought the WTC really into the focus because teams that you didn't expect to even be close to making it to the final. I
Mm.
mean, we just assumed it was going to be India, Australia, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
hand on heart, most people did. I certainly did. But now that India is kind of on shaky ground to an extent, unless they win big in Australia, and Australia have probably the clearest run. I mean, if they can finally win a series against India, then they don't have to worry about what happens in Sri Lanka. But you're right. I think South Africa might well be best placed. You'd back them to beat Sri Lanka and Pakistan at home. I mean, Sri Lanka have won there before, obviously, and Pakistan, who you never know what could happen. But yeah, I mean, they're giving themselves the best chance, and if they can win all five, then they are into the final, aren't they? They don't even have to wait on any
Mm.
other results.
Mm.
So. Yeah, it's all shaping up beautifully. Australia, South Africa at the Oval. You and I will be there, or at Lords. Sorry, this time around. So that
Yeah,
sounds
we'll be
very,
there.
very, very, very tasty. That challenge.
Yeah, one way or the other will be there, and yeah, and I guess the other side of it is when you got 5 test series where you know, because the sample size is bigger, it does create that other variable where, even if India, let's hypothetically say India won sort of 3-0 with a couple of
Mm,
rainy draws, that would be seen as a huge success for India, right? Huge success, beating Australia and
yeah,
Australia 3-0, but it would be counterproductive to their interest right now. They really need to win 4 or 5-0. Anyway,
yeah,
they could eliminate Australia in that process, but they may leave themselves exposed. Anyway, that's the number side of things. Very quickly, there's been a test announced, or a test tour announced for Afghanistan and Zimbabwe. They're going to play a Boxing Day test in Harare for the first time since 1996 when England were
wow,
there, which seems inconceivable now that England would be playing a Boxing Day test in Zimbabwe. It kind of reiterates to me how silly that 9-team World Test Championship is. I think they should have 2 divisions of 6 if they want
mm,
to play that way. I know it would require. I know it'll never happen because it would require India and Pakistan to play each other, and it would probably require the big three to be at risk of being relegated. And so thus it wouldn't be great for the long-term TV deals. But I'm going to say it anyway. 2 divisions of 6 for the World Test Championship is, if they do promotion relegation, doesn't feel completely bonkers. And on Zimbabwe, as we wind down our chat today, they broke the T20 record the other day, playing against Gambia, the smallest country in Africa, in the sub-regional Africa Group B T20 World Cup qualifier for 2026. They made 334 in a T20. Sikandar Raza, our guy, interviewed on the show a couple of years ago, made a 33-ball century. So they overtake that 314 that Nepal made last year. It's actually a sad thing, isn't it, really, that Zimbabwe even have to, as a full member,
yeah.
play in the sub-regional Africa Group B. I mean, it's all a bit of a nonsense, isn't it? They've got a test match at Trent Bridge next year against England, which is a great thing. But yeah, they're deep in the mines when it comes to World Cup qualification. Good in as far as having other teams that have played so well to put Zimbabwe in this tough spot. But yeah, it's you occasionally see stuff pop up and you're like, that doesn't seem right. And Zimbabwe, having been a country that finished 5th in a World Cup 25 years ago, now being in the sub-regional Africa Group B against Gambia, it's all a bit off. It doesn't feel right. I
Yeah.
hope there's a way in the next 10 or 20 years that they can at least get to a stage where they're making World Cups consistently again.
Yeah, I mean, the only way this can turn into a fairy tale is if they go on to win the next T20 World Cup, and then everybody would regret not having been there to watch them do this against Gambia. Like, it's a classic story, right? Look where they were 2 years ago and look there where they are now. And then
Yeah,
I did go and
yeah.
look at some other fixtures from that tournament. Adam, after they played Gambia, they defeated Kenya, Zimbabwe did, and I just
Mm,
thought back to the glory days when Zimbabwe and Kenya was a
mm.
match to look forward
Big
to, right?
game.
Like at the peak
Oh
of
yeah,
their
yeah.
powers, 99 World Cup or even 2003. But here we are. And I looked at that Kenyan team. Shem Ngoche is still captain, so he's still going strong. That's the only name I could recognize from back then. A few Patels and Pariks in there, as always. But yeah, it's just African cricket is interesting beyond South Africa, isn't it? So, yeah, but I mean, and the thing with T20 cricket and every record counting is every time you see, like when Sanju Samson made that 100 a couple of weeks ago. I think he'd broken the record of someone from Portugal, and the Czech Republic are one of
Yeah.
the greatest T20 teams when nobody's watching. So yeah.
I mentioned there's a test being played at Trent Bridge next year with Zimbabwe. Crude segue here to say to stay in the Midlands. Darren Lehman's off to coach Northants, 2-year contract he signed, which, I guess that he's gone from having all the resources, coaching the Australian men, coaching in the IPL years ago, BBL, and now the challenge at the other end. There'll be no resources at Northants in Division 2 of the county championship, but he's always loved England and playing in England, and of course that long history he had at his time at Headingley with Yorkshire. And I like this. I think this is a sign that Darren Lehman is wanting to give something back and take on a massive challenge. And if he can get Northants competitive again, that'd be a great thing to bolster his credentials as a coach as well.
Oh, very much so. And he loves he's going to do radio commentary this summer as well, as we know,
Yep.
for I think for the ABC. And he loves his cricket. And I'm going to be doing some commentary over the weekend on the Shield game, where his son is back in the South Australian squad, Jake Lemon, who I didn't tell you this, right? Like last summer, Jake Lemon made his commentary debut, and I was the one holding his hand and leading him through. And I told Darren during the summer about how I was there. He was very thankful. He was very grateful that I was there to guide him along. But yeah, I mean, he is a proper cricket nut, Darren Lehman. So, and like you said, he's got such great memories in England, and also the English cricket has always looked up to Darren Lehman. So I think that's a marriage that's been going successfully for a long time now.
Just to wrap up, we're not going to get a chance to do it justice, but the Women's Big Bash League started this weekend. We'll do it properly like it is with the Men's Big Bash and other T20 tournaments that I mean, it's into its 10th season, right? The WBBL. I remember the opening weekend of this tournament in 2015 and, down the Junction Oval and back-to-back games and so on. And it's a totally different world now, and that's a great thing, but we've had half a dozen games we're up to now. 6 games at Brisbane Heat. Won a game this evening over the Melbourne Renegades by 28 runs, with Georgia Redmayne top scoring, as she always does for the Brisbane Heat. But the Strikers, won their first game by 11 runs over the Sixers. Sorry, they lost a game earlier in the weekend as well to the Heat. So, that's all finding its way in the usual way, and we'll pick that up and develop that conversation as we go. Elise Perry was the star, wasn't she? 81 from 38. The Sixers in a big chase over the Renegades, and after Perry didn't bowl at all in the T20 World Cup, 2 for 25 from 4, 81 from 38. It's like any time that you doubt Perry and her ability to mix it at T20 level, she finds a way of doing something special in the WBBL. You can never write her off. But that's a conversation for another day, because we've definitely run long today. Funny that, you and me. And I love this little detail from New Zealand, India's women too, by the way. They played a one-day series at Modi Stadium where India won the first game. Tijal Hasrina, some bad pronunciation, but you know what I'm trying to say, made a top scored on debut, which is good for India. Some generational change there. Sophie Devine dominated the second game and got New Zealand up by 76 runs. She made 79 and took 3 for, which is a lovely thing for her to do after having held up that World T20 trophy a week before it. And India won the decider by 6 wickets. But the nice part of all of this, they get to go home now, and they're doing an 8-day trophy tour around New Zealand with the T20 World Cup. And isn't that just a wonderful thing? This New Zealand team, who've been so bad in major competitions and been really bullied in bilateral cricket too, for the most part, that, as we celebrated last week on the show, that they've got the job done on the big stage, and now they get to celebrate it with their people back home with their trophy.
Yeah, and during summer as well, when the focus is on cricket in New Zealand. So, what a fortnight it's been for New Zealand cricket, men and women. I hope the men get to do the same with whatever the trophy's called when India and New Zealand play Test cricket against each other. The couple day of Richard Hadley Trophy. I mean, if it's not that, I'm surprised it's not that. But maybe they should be doing that with the men as well. But Smriti Mandana scored 100, I think, in that third game. So she'll be joining the Strikers. So Adelaide is waiting for Smriti to arrive. And I will say this about the WBBL, Adam. I mean, I was there for the final last year. I took Isha along when the Strikers won their second trophy. And even between then and now, for the opening game of the 10th season, the crowd, it was at least 1.5 times more people, and so many young girls. And you would appreciate this more than anyone else with two lovely daughters that you have at home. So many young girls, walking into the stadium, and I was there with like 5, 6 thousand. None of them knew that the first thing they'll have to see was me running down with a bandana and knocking middle stuff out. But they stayed, and yeah, I left after the first game, and there was still a lot of people coming in, and it was wonderful to see. And then just the treatment it was given, like paratroopers, not paratroopers, whatever they call people jumping off parachutes. I don't know what they call, with the trophy and all of that. It was very exciting. It was quite a spectacle, and the weather was great.
We started the conversation with you taking out middle stump, and appropriate that we end it there as well. Thank you, Baz. Great to do that. I said it to Alex last week. There aren't many people who can bounce around and do as many topics as you've done today. It's a credit to the work you put in. I mean, it's all good and well to be doing your social media videos and all the higher profile stuff, but no one works harder than you. So thank you for jumping on with us and providing such a good conversation today. I'm sure we'll catch up with you on the final word soon.
Can't wait, Adam. Always a pleasure. And yeah, the next time we see each other, I have a feeling you'll be to my left. Yeah, to my left. Always to my left.
Yes, to your left when we're calling it Perth, absolutely. To everyone for listening, as always, thank you so much for your support of the show. Patreon.com/The Final Word to get on board with what we're doing on Patreon, Discord. Say it all the time, but you're the lifeblood of the show. You're the reason why we can do this the way we do this. 250 eps per year. All the daily shows, all the World Cups, all the various things that cost a lot of money, to be blunt. And you're there with us 365 days a year. And there's the ad-free feed, so don't miss out there. Patreon.com/The Final Word. Please join us. The next Storytime episode's in a couple of days with Daniel Norcross. We've already recorded that. That's lots of fun. Daniel going on plenty of tangents and lots of other bits and bobs in the feed as well. Okay. Has been The Final Word, signing off season 17, episode 7. We'll talk again in a couple of days. Bye.